All right. Welcome to Pro Football's first 50 years, where we take the past and we bring it back to life. You can go online, and I'm talking about the first 50 years, like 1920 to 1970. If you go back to, especially the 20s and the 30s and all that, I mean, you can go online, and you can pull up the box score to any game. You can find out who won, maybe who scored, who scored the touchdown, how far the touchdown, what maybe the field goal, how far the field goal was. You can find obviously what stadium it was played in, maybe what the attendance was, starting lineups for each team. And if, with certain games, you can go back, especially like the 30s and all. You can find like sometimes small little video clips of a game here and there. Some of them might have some sound to it. Some might be, may not have any sound at all. But exactly what happened during each and every football game? Well, thanks to old newspaper articles, we get to take a little bit of a deeper dive into each and every game of the first 50 years of the pro football. 1920-21 was called the American Professional Football Association. 1922 to the present is called the NFL. But yes, thanks to the old newspaper articles, we get to take a little bit of a deeper dive, a better in-depth detail look in each and every game in the first 50 years of pro football. Now, just a little news flash here for you. There's no fancy videos going on here, all right? All there is you and me for the next 30 to 60 minutes. So if that's all right with you, let's get it on. Today's game, happy Thanksgiving. You didn't know that, but happy Thanksgiving. The Green Bay Packers at the Frankford Yellow Jackets at Frankford Stadium, November, happy Thanksgiving, 27th, 1930. Yes, it was played on Thanksgiving Day. Now, unfortunately, sadly, this we're kind of like, the Yellow Jackets came into the league in 1924. The Green Bay Packers came into the league in 1921. The Green Bay Packers, came in and obviously been there ever since. The Frankfurt Yellow Jackets were at one time a very good team. They won the championship in 1926. 1925, we'll take a look at it. I think they started 7-1 or 8-1. I mean, they were a good team, a very, very good team. Sadly, as the years started going by, things started going downhill. And I believe 1931 was their last season in the league. It's such a shame, but it is what it is. As I said, they played at this game was played at Frankfurt Stadium. And unfortunately, Frankfurt Stadium burned down. I believe it was in 1931. I believe it burned down. And sadly, the Yellow Jackets had, as I said, I think it was in 31, had to play because Frankfurt, newsflash for you, back in 1931, or the Great Depression. Not everybody, especially in the Great Depression, had a vehicle. They could just pop. There was no Ubers back then. I know, hard to believe. Not everybody had vehicles. So when you're playing in Frankfurt, Philadelphia, a lot of the fans that showed up were very local fans, and some of them had cars, some didn't. But a lot of them walked to the game. So when they had to uproot, because they couldn't play at Frankfurt Stadium anymore, and they had to move and play at a couple other parks located in Philadelphia, but many miles away. That hurt their fan base as far as showing up to the game. And of course, back then you didn't have fans in the stands, paying fans in the stands. Your time in the NFL was rather limited. I mean, unlike today, obviously, of course, you want a full stadium. I get it. However, there's a lot of ways to make money nowadays. I'm quite sure, the teams, the home teams, they got a little piece of the pie as Jerry Jones would say. Like when you're selling a hot dog for $342, I mean, I'm sure the home team gets a little piece of the pie. When you're selling a 20-ounce beer or whatever for $13,000, it's an absolute joke, it really is. Sure, the home team gets a little piece of the pie. When the home team sells some jerseys in the stores nowadays, the home team gets a little piece of the pie. TV revenue. Guess newsflash, there wasn't no TV going on back then. There's no TV revenue back then, right? So nowadays there's a lot of way. I mean, you don't have to sell out to make money. And obviously, of course, you want to sell out. But there's many ways an NFL team can make money and still stay afloat without selling out each and every game. Now, don't get me wrong. Back then, there really weren't any sellouts. Very rarely was there a sellout. One of the first ones that comes to mind was that December 6, 1925, Red Grange and the Bears went to Polo Grounds to play the Giants. Well, about 70,000 fans stacked the stadium, packed the stadium. But that was rare. You needed a nice sized crowd. I mean, if you could get 10, 15,000 in a stadium, that was really good. But that wasn't always the case. And as we'll see here with the Frankford Yellow Jackets, we'll go over their schedule especially for the 1930 season. You can start seeing where the crowds were dwindling. Now, obviously, one of the problems is that a lot of time the visiting team was guaranteed a set amount of money. So you want us to show up, you owe us whatever, $2,000, $2,500, whatever it was. So if you had to pay the visiting team $2,000 or $2,500, and you only had say 3,000 people, 4,000 people come to the game, and say out of those 4,000 people, say you might have had 50-cent seats, you might have had $1 seats, you might have had $2 seats. So out of those 4,000 fans, say you made $4,000. Well, if you owe the visiting team, I'm just throwing a number out there, $2,500, that means you only have $1,500 to pay your own players. That's just not to pay the players. I mean, you got to, there's a lot of other things involved in running a team. And if you only got $1,500 left, you lost money. And this continues to happen after a period of time. If you don't have a secondary source of income as a team owner, your team's going to go bye-bye really, really fast. And if you can't pay to have good players on your team stinks. If your team stinks, guess what? Ain't nobody showing up. So unfortunately, as time wore on, the Frankford Yellow Jackets kind of went downhill. Now let's go over it. Now the Packers were in the midst of their second consecutive NFL title. They won in 1929. They won in 1930. They won in 1931. All right, let's go over here. Oh, all right, we'll start off with the Frankford Yellow Jackets. What the heck? Why not? So we'll go up here. Okay. Now you see this particular season here, they wound up in 9th place out of 11 teams. 4-13-1. I mean, that is just it's a shame because they used to be 13-4 or so at one point, a few years prior. The year that they won the championship in 26, I think they were 14-1. Now I'm going to show you I'll go over the schedule real fast in 1925. I'll show you one of the reasons why they didn't do well. But you see, I mean, they just, I mean, 21-0. They lost 14-0, 19-0, 39, 27. They lost 53-0 to the Giants, 34-7, 13-0. They lost this game here they lost this game here 25-7. And they finally beat a team, Clifton Heights. They weren't in the NFL. Then they lost their final game of the season against the Giants. But if you'll notice here, Frankford Stadium, right? I mean, here against the Giants, they only had 4,000 fans in the stands. This game here, they had 8,000. Now, 8 to 10,000 you can work with. 4,000 you can't. Not happening. See, Frankfurt Stadium, they had 3,500. Frankfurt Stadium, they had 4,000. Frankfurt Stadium, this one here, they didn't have a total. But 3,000, Frankfurt Stadium, they had 3,000 fans show up. Frankfurt Stadium, 5,000 fans. Thompson Stadium, let's see, that was against the Staten Island. Stapleton, Frankfurt Stadium had 6,000. But you can see that the crowd size was not. They were probably losing money on a lot of those games. Let's go back here to 1985, 25 season, and I'll show you. I mean, they started off really well. There we go. I just showed this real fast. I mean, 1925, what were they? They played Akron. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All the Britain team wasn't in there, so 10. Akron Pros. So I guess they start 9-1. Oops, my bad. I thought it was 8-1. Yeah. Maybe they started 9-1. So, I mean, you can see 1925, they started off really, really well. The only game they lost was to the Detroit Panthers in Detroit. And the Detroit Panthers that year were not bad. The Detroit Panthers were 8-2-2, I believe, that year. But you'll notice here one of the problems that the Frankfurt Yellow Jackets had, and one of the problems they had many times, was the blue laws. They were not allowed to play a home football game in Philadelphia on a Sunday. So what they had to do was they had to play a game. And they did this, I think, 6 times during the 1925 season. They played a home game on Saturday. Oh, this is wrong. Oh, wait. No, hold on. Yeah, this is wrong. We got Sunday here. This is October 10th. This was a Saturday, not a Sunday. So this is wrong. Then they played the following day, October 11th, on a Sunday. They played at home on Saturday, then they played on the road. So they played at home in Philadelphia, and then they took a train to Detroit the very next day, and they lost 3-0. But you'll see here, they played the Giants on October 17th. They played October 18th. They played October 17th in Frankfurt, Philadelphia. Then the very next day, they played the Polo Grounds and the Giants, and they wound up winning both those games. But you'll notice here, the 7th and the 8th, they played Saturday and Sunday. The 21st and the 22nd of November, they played Saturday and Sunday. The 28th and 29th, they played a Saturday and Sunday. The 12th and the 13th, they played Saturday and Sunday. They wound up playing 20 games that year. They wound up they started like 8 or 9-1, and they wound up 13-7. So they just, as you can see, they just kept losing. They lost. They lost a lot of games because they were playing games on Saturday and playing games on Sunday. That's what wound up happening quite a bit to them throughout the years, because they could not play home. So, I mean, the one thing was it worked out well. I mean, because if they had, as long as they had enough big of a crowd, they were making money on Saturday, they were making money on Sunday. Back then, obviously they wanted to win a championship. Yeah. However, back then, it was more about it was more about making money than it was. They were worried more about making money, putting money in their pockets, than they were about winning the championship. Nowadays, it's all about, I'll say this to the day I die, it's all about the Benjamins. That's what I can't stand about football, about professional sports. The money, the greed, can't stand it. But more so nowadays, they want to win championships. Back then, I think sometimes winning a championship was almost kind of like an afterthought. Number one was make money back then. And that was one of the things that they tried to, especially playing a home game Saturday and then going on the road Sunday playing somebody else. So they said you could see the same thing here. So they played the 27th on a Saturday, then they played the 28th. They played the 18th, they played the 19th, they played the 25th, they played the 26th, they played the 8th, they played the 9th, they played the 15th, they played the 16th. back-to-back games, and they just wears you out. You're playing Saturday and Sunday, and a lot of times you're playing the team on Sunday. The team on Sunday you're playing hasn't played a game for a week. Well, you just played one 24 hours prior, so you're beat up. You're tired. You're beat up. And one of the things is that, especially back then, you're starting 11, played most of the game. I mean, there ain't no special teams unit. There's no dime package. There's no 3-4. There's no 4-3. There's no goal line. It's starting 11. Played offense, defense, special teams. You played everything. I mean, there were some substitutes, but so a lot of times, especially with Frankfurt, they're starting 11, played Saturday, and then they're starting 11, tried to play Sunday, and a lot of times it didn't work out so well. But I said, you see here, I mean, they were just not a very good team in 1930. However, the Green Bay Packers, if I can find them here, were a very good team in 1930. Of course, obviously, they wound up winning the championship. However, they started off the season 8-0. Then they started stumbling. They lost to the Cardinals. They lost to the Giants. This was a get-right game for them, this Thanksgiving game, because they were 8-0. They lost to the Cardinals. They lost to the Giants. They were 8-2. The Giants, actually, after the Giants beat them, the Packers fell to 8-2. The Giants at the time played more games, so the Giants were actually 11-2. So the Giants, after the Giants beat the Packers, the Giants jumped into first place, but only for 4 days, because the Packers would beat the Frankford Yellow Jackets, and as we see here, the Giants would lose to the Staten Island Stapletons. See, on that Thanksgiving, the Giants lost to the Staten Island Stapletons 7-6 because the Giants missed an extra point. This was the year of the extra point. There's I could probably go over 5 or 6 games total that if an extra point was made, like right here, if the New York Giants, if they made this extra point here, they would have won it's crazy as it was, they would have won the 1930 NFL title. See, then the Giants lost to the Brooklyn Dodgers at the Polo Grounds. They lost 7-6. Had the Giants made this extra point, Giants would have won the championship. Had the Dodgers missed this extra point, the Giants would have won the championship. Had the Staten Island missed this extra point, the Giants would have been champions. It was a crazy, crazy year. The Packers won the championship here in 1930 had a winning percentage of .769. The Giants had a winning percentage of .765. So by .004, the Green Bay Packers just nudged out the New York Giants to the 1930 NFL title. So I said, so you see the Packers really started off well. Here we are, right? I'm sorry. I'm going over the Giants here. The Packers started off well. They beat the Oshkosh All-Stars. It was an exhibition game. But then they won their next 8 games. So they started 8-0. Then their final 6 games, they won 2, they lost 3, and they tied 1. So they started stumbling toward the end. But this game right here against the Frankford Yellow Jackets, Green Bay Packers were the best team in the NFL. The Frankford Yellow Jackets were one of the worst. The Newark Tornadoes were the worst. But the Frankford Yellow Jackets were one of the worst. So this was a kind of a get-right game for the Packers. They came, they saw, and they conquered. They kicked butt. All right, let me go. What we'll do is go over a little bit of the history of the Frankford Yellow Jackets. They came into the league in 1924, and pretty much by 1931, they were out of the NFL. It was a shame, very shame, because they in the beginning they were truly a very good football team. Frankfurt, no, let's see. I do apologize. I have 37,000 tabs open up here. Here we go. All right, let's read a little bit here on the Frankfurt Yellow Jackets. All right, the Frankfurt Yellow Jackets. I have no idea I don't know. No idea. The Frankfurt Yellow Jackets, sometimes called Frankfurt Yellow Jackets. I don't know. Sometimes the words are separated. Sometimes they're connected. Who cares? We're a professional team, right? Part of the National Football League from 1924 to 1931. Although its origins dates back to as early as 1899 with the Frankfurt Athletic Association, the Yellow Jackets won the championship in 1926. The team played its home games from 1923 in Frankfurt Stadium, also called Yellow Jacket Field, in Frankfurt, Philadelphia, a neighborhood in the northeast Philadelphia, noted for Market Frankfurt line that terminates there. So we got the Frankfurt Athletic Association was organized in May of 1899 in the parlor of the Suburban Club. The cost of purchasing a share in the association was $10. However, there was also contributing memberships ranging from $1 to $2.50 made available to the general public. The association was a community-based nonprofit organization of local residents and businesses, in keeping with its charter, which stated that all profits shall be donated to charity. All the team's excess income was donated to local charitable institutions. The beneficiaries of this generosity included Frankfurt Hospital, the Frankfurt Day Nursery, the local Boy Scouts, and the local American Legion Post 211. The officers of the association never received a salary or compensation for their work on behalf of the team. All right, so we got the Yellow Jackets and the NFL. In the early 20s, Frankfurt Athletic Association Yellow Jackets gained the reputation of being one of the best independent football teams in the nation. In 1922, Frankfurt absorbed the Philadelphia City champion team, the Union Quakers of Philadelphia. That year, Frankfurt captured the unofficial championship of Philadelphia. During the 22 and 23 seasons, the Yellow Jackets compiled a 6-2-1 record against teams from the National Football League. This led to the association being granted an NFL franchise in 1924. So the 1924 season, the Jackets assembled in September 24. The team often played 15 to 20 games a season. This is why. Frequently, they would schedule 2 games on the same weekend. Typically one at home on Saturday because of Pennsylvania's blue laws, an away game on Sunday. Now, the thing was is that nothing at all could be played on Sunday in Philadelphia. The New York had blue laws as well. However, baseball was allowed to be played on Sunday in New York. Football was not. In 1925, when the Giants joined the league, they started playing games on Sunday. And they got taken to court 2 different times. However, both times it was thrown out of court. The first time, the magistrate said that he attended the football games and he saw absolutely nothing wrong. They all were playing football on the day of the Sabbath, as they called it back then. But you can see where playing a game on Saturday, playing a game on Sunday, could make it where you made it very difficult to win both games all the time. So, 1925 season, they posted a 13-7 record in the league play. But as I said, you saw all the games that they had to play back to back. They started the season, I said it was like 8-1 or so. They started off really, really well, and that they just faltered toward the end. I mean, they just kept playing. They played 20 games. Just to show you in comparison, the Duluth Kellys in 1925 played 3 games. 1925, the Frankfurt Yellow Jackets played 20 games. The 26th season, this is when the Yellow Jackets won the championship. They had a record of 14-1-2. However, a 14-1-2 final record left the Yellow Jackets alone atop the NFL standings. 27 to 29 seasons. James Adams took over the president of the Frankfurt Athletic Association in 27. He hired Charlie Moran as the team's new coach. However, Moran's son, Tom, briefly served as the team's interim coach that year after Charlie took a leave of absence to officiate in the 1927 World Series between the Yankees and the Pirates. And interestingly, Charlie's son, Tom, played 1 season in the NFL in 1925 with the New York Giants. He played, I think, in one game. Let's see. The Yellow Jackets suffered as a result of these changes and held a 2-5-1 record after 8 league games. Let's see here. Then they finished. Once they started 2-5-1, they changed. Looks like they changed. Ed Weir became the team's player coach. The team finished 6-9-3-27, which is a far cry from 14-1-2 the year before. The Yellow Jackets rebounded in 28 with 11-3-2 record, but they fell behind the Providence. The Providence Steamroller only had a better record. So I mean, you can see from 1924 to 1928. I mean, the Yellow Jackets were pretty good. Bull Bayman became the coach of the Yellow Jackets at 29. They finished with a record of 9-4-5 for third place. So I mean, the first 5-6 seasons they were pretty good, but then 1930, the last 2 years they're in decline, unfortunately. At a 4-13-1 record in league play in 1930, but in the final season 1931. Before the start of the 1931 season, Frankford Stadium was severely damaged by a fire, forcing the club to find another location for its home games. However, most facilities suitable for professional football were already booked. The Yellow Jackets had to overcome the scheduling problem by playing at 2 different locations around the city of Philadelphia Municipal Stadium and the Baker Bowl. Municipal Stadium and the Baker Bowl were located outside of the Frankfurt area, making attendance difficult for some local fans. Not everybody had a car, especially when you're talking in the Depression. Maybe they could have took a bus or something, whatever, but stuff, it costs money. You don't have any money, it's too far to walk, guess what? You don't show up to the game. The team did hope to draw a broader support from the Philadelphia at large. Herb Joesting took over as head coach in 31. However, the team was in terrible shape. So, let's see. By October, NFL President Joseph Carr, after witnessing poor attendance at Frankfurt's home loss to the Portsmouth Spartans, or in 1934 they would become the Detroit Lions, approved a plan for the Yellow Jackets to finish the season as a traveling team. Carr hoped that this move would allow the team to curb spending and rebound financially. October 26, 1931, the Yellow Jackets defeated the Bears 13-12 at Wrigley Field. This game marked the last time a Philadelphia-based team would win an away game over the Bears until 1999. Let's see. Frankfurt 71 wins are the most by any defunct NFL team. And they won a lot of games. And also, one thing, too, is that, a lot of teams, if they became defunct, right? Didn't wind up hanging around as long as the Yellow Jackets. A lot of teams might have came in the league for 1 year, maybe 2, and they went bye-bye, and it just maybe became like an independent team or whatever. They were not in the NFL anymore. But for them to be around from 1924 to 31, that was a nice length of time. Now, they played in Frankfurt Stadium, which is really nothing super spectacular. I mean, there's not a lot of great photos of Frankfurt Stadium, and even in Wikipedia, there's not much on it at all. The Frankfurt Stadium, also known as Yellow Jacket Field, was a football field in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania that was the home for the Frankfurt Yellow Jackets football team in the National Football League, which predated the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles came in, I believe it was 33. This was located in North Philadelphia. The stadium located at Frankfurt Avenue and Devereaux Avenue was the Yellow Jackets' home field from 1923 through 1930. On July 27, 1931, a fire caused major damage to the structure. forcing the Yellow Jackets to play the remaining home games at the Baker Bowl and Municipal Stadium before disbanding during the 1931 season. The site was purchased in 1933 by the Franklin Legion Athletic Association, who demolished the structure to build the Franklin Legion Athletic Field. When the Frankford Legion Athletic Association reorganized as the Northeast Philadelphia Athletic Association later that year, the stadium's name was changed to Yellow Trojan Field. And of course, as always, as of 2017, a Dollar Tree and row houses occupy the site. Good old Dollar Tree. It's the way it is around my place. I mean, you can't walk 5 feet without seeing a freaking Dollar Tree. But this is a picture of the stadium. I mean, it's like nothing. I mean, you can see that. Yeah, but I got a couple more pictures here. Nothing super spectacular. I mean, you see the stands over here. Stands over here, right? And maybe some people back here. Same thing over here. I mean, it was nothing. I mean, to be honest with you, I don't even know where the hell the scoreboard is at, if they even had a scoreboard. Honest with you. I got a couple other pictures here. I know I have one more of the field. Let's see here. Is this it? Yeah, okay. Well, all right. Well, let's say it's the same picture. It really is. It's like this is about like the only good picture in it. Right? So the year it opened was 1923. Capacity about 10,000, approximately. Frankford Stadium, Yellow Jacket Field. Let's see. Pro football attendance was the Yellow Jackets. Located at the intersection of Frankford Avenue and Devereux Street in the Frankford section of Philadelphia, which is in North Philadelphia. The venue suffered damage due to first a fire and then a windstorm in 1929. Crowds for the Yellow Jacket games were noted for their enthusiasm, helped by the participation of the Yellow Jackets band and the Frankford Legion Post 211 Drum and Bugle Corps. Venue also used for midget and women's football. I do know that they traveled very well. When the Frankford Yellow Jackets came to New York to play the Giants in the Polo Grounds on October 18th, 1925. I said in the Polo Ground, the Yellow Jackets band and the Frankford Legion Post 211 Drum and Bugle Corps were on hand. Plus, a lot of fans showed up as well too, as they do nowadays for the Eagles. The fans, the Philadelphia fans, travel very well. They do support their team wholeheartedly, whether it was back then or whether it was today. Philadelphia fans, they love their sports. Ain't no doubt about that. But I said, when they played the Giants in the Polo Grounds on December 18th, 1925, there was a lot of support. A lot of support there. So, severely damaged by a fire in 1931, forcing the Yellow Jackets to play in other venues, the structure was demolished following purchase by the Frankford Legion Athletic Association in 1933 and rebuilt as the Franklin Legion Athletic Field, later named Yellow Trojan Field. A car dealership and row homes have since been constructed on the site. So, I don't know. Got a car dealership. Maybe the car dealership went under. Now there's a Dollar Tree there, or maybe the Dollar Tree went under and now there's a car dealership there. Who knows? But there's also row homes there too. And you can just see here, this is just a part of the crowd, the stands. So you can see, where am I at? So you can see this here. So I'm not sure where that is here, but that's, there's not much to it. I mean, you can just say like a row of stands here, looks like a row of stands here, maybe some people around here, maybe some people back here, some people on the side over here, maybe there's some stands back here. But I mean, you can just see, basically maybe about 10,000 fans can fit in the whole stadium. And then there's one more a picture here. I guess it's possibly people showing up maybe to a football game. I don't even know what year this is. But there were cars, as you can see here. I mean, this is a nice picture. But it just says Frankfurt Stadium, Yellow Jacket Field, Pro Football Stadium, Frankfurt Avenue and Devereaux Street, opened in 1923. But it doesn't say, you know, whoops, does this go up and down? No, that's it. That's it. That's all that. Doesn't date this picture from what I can see here. So I have no idea. But you'll do notice that like everybody's there with a jacket. They have a hat on. A lot of people have like maybe suits and ties. See, this guy's looks like a tie there. There's a tie here. This guy's got a suit and a tie, right? A lot of people. A lot of, I mean, this might be the only guy. It'd be hard pressed to find anybody else who doesn't have a hat on. This guy here has no hat on, but you see he's well dressed. Everybody has shoes on. Everybody looks like they have a jacket, a suit on with a tie. I mean, it show up for a football game, right? All well dressed. Even this kid over here. See this kid? Well dressed up with a nice jacket there. He might have a suit on as well. It could be a tie there as well. But even he has a hat on. The ladies have a hat. This lady here, she has a hat on. I mean, everybody has a hat on. They're all looking up. See these people over here? They're looking at the camera. Somebody taking a picture. This lady here, she has a hat on. This lady over here has a hat on. Everybody has a hat on. All well, nicely dressed up. They don't come out in pajamas and ripped shirts and all painted up and stuff like that. See how nice everybody is. Look at all the cars here. Cars look all nice and everything, right? These are the row homes here, I guess. I'm not sure if this is Devereaux or if this is Frankfurt Avenue, or if this is Devereaux Street. I'm not exactly sure. I don't know, but I guess this is a crowd showing up for a football game. Maybe this is where they say this is the line to get in. Maybe they're checking in here. Maybe they're coming in over here too. That's the only thing I can think of. But this is a crowd, I guess, maybe outside of Frankfurt Stadium, maybe going in to see a football game. So that's all I saw there. But yeah, but we do have a couple articles here. One of them is with the Green Bay Press-Gazette, and they got a play-by-play of what happened in this game. So let's start off here. I got a couple articles. Let's see here. The Post-Crescent. We'll start off with the Post-Crescent. That's a Wisconsin paper. Share the screen. Post-Crescent. The 12th page of the November 28th, 1930 edition of the Post-Crescent. All right. Green Bay Packers regain lead in the Pro League because they won, making them 9-2, and the Giants would lose, making the Giants, I think, 11-3. So the Packers had a better winning percentage after this game. See over here, Green Bay beat Philadelphia as the Stapletons beat New York. So, here you go. See, because after this game, the Packers were 9-2 and the Giants were 11-3. So the Packers were 8-18, the Giants were 7-86. And the Bears, they kept crawling up. I think the Bears wound up in third place after this season was over. So you can see this was a big game. This was a huge game. The Giants missed the extra point. Had the Giants made the extra point, the Giants would have been 11-2-1, and the Giants still would have been in first place. They would have tied. They missed the extra point. That extra point cost them the title. All right, here we go. Scoring in 3 of the 4 periods, a powerful Green Bay Packers team completely outplayed the Frankfurt Yellow Jackets to take the lead in the National Pro League race by virtue of a convincing 25-7 victory here Thursday afternoon. As the New York Giants were defeated by the Stapleton in their Turkey Day battle at New York, the Packers again take the top of the circuit. The Packers have lost 2 games and the Giants 3. So the Giants were in first place for 4 days. Packers dominate play. 7,000 fans shivered through a freezing afternoon to watch the Packers. Now, I also saw, I think there was, it was stated that there was possibly 8,000 fans here as well, too. So you get discrepancies. I've seen a lot of discrepancies. and some by thousands, literally thousands. 7,000 fans shivered through a freezing afternoon to watch the Packers outpass, outscrimmage, and outplay the home side. In fact, Green Bay dominated the play throughout the hour of action. Green Bay scored a touchdown in the first quarter, another in the second, and then climaxed a very successful afternoon with a pair of journeys to the goal line in the final quarter. One of the many fumbles by the Wisconsin team, all of which were excusable due to frozen fingers caused by the frigid weather, was transformed into a Frankford touchdown, which saved the Jackets from a shutout. This break for the home side came in the third period when Herbert let a pass from center slip through his fingers deep in his own territory. The alert Wilson, playing end for Frankford, fell on the ball 12 yards from the Green Bay goal. A pass brings a score. Then Herb Joesting and Art Pharmer penetrated the heavy Packers line for a first down. 3 more smacks at the forward wall netted the Jackets only a yard. So tight was the Green Bay defense, but then the Jackets crossed the opposition by utilizing a forward pass, Peterson to Rodriguez, which manufactured the score. Green Bay's first 2 tallies were made in the air. Johnny Blood scored both of them. Midway in the opening period, Red Dunn chucked a perfect aerial down the alley to Blood, who caught the ball on the run and continued unmolested in a 43-yard dash to the goal line. Vern Llewellyn, the barrister back of the Packers, tossed the pigskin to Blood from a point 25 yards out, and once more Blood paddocked into the end zone. Dunn was unsuccessful in both of his tries for placement goals after the tallies. The Bays intercept the pass. The Frankfurt fans were enthused over the home team's score in the third period and entertained hopes for a victory until the middle of the final quarter, when the Westerners reeled off 2 touchdowns in quick succession to put the game on ice. Incidentally, literally and figuratively, because it must have been cold. Because we're going back 100 years ago. There was no global warming back then. The alert Lavern Dilweg was indirectly responsible for the first of these 2 touchdowns in the final period. He intercepted a Frankfurt pass and raced to the 25-yard line. The Green Bay backs then functioned and ripped through the Jackets' forward wall for 2 first downs. Then Herbert found a hole at tackle and dashed to the last broad stripe. Another intercepted pass less than 2 minutes later was also the opening for the last Green Bay touchdown. This time, Hubbard purloined a Frankfurt aerial out of the ether and lugged along with him 2 Frankfurt tacklers as he smashed his way back 15 yards to the Jackets' 15-yard line. McCrary then got loose through center and didn't stop until he grounded the ball in the end zone. It was after this score that Dunn finally succeeded in kicking a placement after goal after 3 unsuccessful tries. When he tried 4 times, he missed 3 extra points. Green Bay was marching to another touchdown when the game ended. The Packers had the ball on the only 8 yards from the goal line when the umpire's horn tooted the cessation of the hostilities. Cessation of the hostilities. Then he's got the Packers. You got the there's the starting lineups there. Got the referee Herbert, umpire James Lutz, head linesman Eichelberger. Scores, substitutions. Let's see. I mean, you say they, what do we got? Frankfurt used 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 substitutes. Packers had maybe 6 or so. So not many. Not many at all. I mean, there was a Bull Bayman here. He was on the Jackets for a long time. He might have been on their team from 24 to 31. But he was on their team a long time. Bull Bayman. All right, so that is that. And then we'll go to the Philadelphia Inquirer. We'll get a little bit of a Philadelphia flavor. So let's go to page 19 of the November 28th, 1930 edition of the Philadelphia Inquirer and see what they have to say. Last period, Packers flare tops Hornets What we got here? Anything? No, this is Delaware. Well-earned victory over Delaware in a thrilling battle at Chester yesterday. The Cadets and the Mud Hens, the Delaware Mud Hens. All right. Anyway. Okay, here we go. Last period, Packer Flair tops the Hornets. Green Bay follows up pair of pass interceptions in the final quarter to make touchdowns and win 25-7 before 8,000 spectators. Remember, the other article said there were 7,000. But all right, for 3 periods, the Fighting Frankford Yellow Jackets held at bay the touring National League champions in a bitterly cold gridiron struggle, marking Thanksgiving Day up in Frankfurt. But in the closing minutes, the Jackets were apparently frozen. The Green Bay Packers from out of near Milwaukee ran away with the thing to triumph by the final score of Green Bay 25, Frankfurt 7. It wasn't so much Frankfurt's inability to gain ground which cost them the Turkey Day honors as much as it was the inaccurate manner in which they threw forward passes and their errors on offense and defense which cost them the worst beating since the shake up in the team 3 weeks ago. Packers registered 4 touchdowns during the game, and all of them were the outgrowth of errors of omission or commission. Particularly can this be said of the 2 scores in the last period, each of which followed an intercepted forward pass. By far, the largest crowd of the season was on hand for the game when more than 8,000 persons packed the Frankfurt Stadium and chilled as the gale of wind swept down the field. They were given plenty to be thankful for when Frankfurt rallied in the 3rd period and scored 1 touchdown, and when the Jackets later in that same quarter seemed about ready to score a 2nd touchdown. It was for Rodriguez, a Frankfurt substitute, to score the Jackets' only touchdown early in the 3rd period. 8,000 witnessed the game. Now, once again, this was a good crowd for them back then. As I showed you earlier, sometimes there was only 3,000 or 4,000 fans, which is not going to get it done financially wise. The terrific gale of wind which swept down the field from the northwest bewildered the Yellow Jackets as they took the field at the opening whistle, fighting the wind and the gigantic Green Bay line as the Turkey Day began. Probably 8,000 shivering spectators shivered and danced as play began, while the Yellow Jackets brass band had their usual difficulty keeping the horns from freezing up. The attendance was the season's largest. Among those present was a small delegation of rooters for the Packers from the wilds of Wisconsin, including a number of Milwaukee newspapermen. Poor kicks and a fumble gave the Packers an early advantage and placed Frankfurt on the defensive virtually from the start of the game. And within the first 10 minutes of play, the Packers had crossed Frankfurt's goal line with the first visiting touchdown. The score was made on a long, sensational forward pass, which was thrown by Red Dunn, standing on Frankfurt's 45-yard line and caught by Johnny Blood, former Minnesota halfback. Blood never stopped running until he had crossed the goal line with the touchdown. Dunn lost the extra point as the wind carried this placement wide of the goalpost. Earlier in the period, Nydal had fumbled the ball, and Slate, Green Bay lineman, recovered the ball in midfield, putting Frankfurt on the defensive. The Jackets held well and took the ball on downs. Pharmer punted poorly in the wind to the 45-yard line, and on the first play, the Packers scored their touchdown. There was an abundance of action in the remainder of the period, but the wind and the big Packer line kept the ball deep in Frankfurt territory, the ball being in Frankfurt's 30-yard line when the quarter ended. The Packers would score again. Frankfurt had scarcely become accustomed to having the wind at her back at the start of the 2nd period before the visitors scored their 2nd touchdown. Again, a long forward pass produced a score after the Packers took the ball on a fumble. It was the first play of the period when Llewellyn heaved a. It should be Llewellyn. when Llewellyn Green Bay, Dilweg, Llewellyn for Herber. Herber was the left halfback, but Llewellyn won it for Herber. So this is not Louis Lowe. I don't know what they was smoking. No idea. Where were we at here? No, when Louis, I have no idea. When Llewellyn heaved a 30-yard pass to Blood, who dashed over the goal line with a touchdown. Again, Dunn lost the extra point when his kick was wide. That gave Green Bay a 12-point lead, and they were successful in playing behind that lead for the balance of the second quarter. Although Frankford, with the advantage of the win, rallied beautifully and several times threatened to break into the scoring column by advancing deep in Green Bay territory. However, late in the period, Frankford tried forward passing and was unable to complete any of them, and numerous scoring chances were wasted. The weather kept getting colder and colder as the teams lined up for the second half. It was so cold, in fact, that fumbles became plentiful. Early in the third period, the Yellow Jackets got a real break when Blood, big Green Bay halfback, fumbled the ball on the Packers' 14-yard line, and Wilson, Frankfurt end, recovered the ball. On 3 plays, Pharmer made a first down on the 2-yard line. A forward pass from Pharmer to Rodriguez, a Jacket sub, produced Frankfurt's touchdown. Pharmer kicked the extra point from placement. So that was the and once again you can see that the lineups here, right? Substitutes down here. I just start lineups. And as I said, here they say there's 8,000 fans. So, all right. So let's go here. And we'll go to the Green Bay Press-Gazette, and we'll get a play-by-play of what exactly happened during this game. So let's go to page 17 of the November 28th, 1930 edition of the Green Bay Press-Gazette. Packers whip Frankfurt, regain lead. There you go. Here's what they got. And this is what they got is the start lineups. Right, Green Bay scored touchdown in the first period, touchdown in the second period. Frankfurt scored in the third period to make it 12-7 for a little while. Then those 2 intercepted passes that Green Bay got, Frankfurt, they intercepted 2 Frankfurt passes, was basically the dagger and ended any hope of a Frankfurt comeback. Then you get the substitutions here, the referees. So, strong attack brings victory and top post. Packers hold upper in all stages of game at Frankfurt. And once again, you get here's the standings. After this week, Green Bay was back on top with a record of 9-2. The Green Bay Packers celebrated Thanksgiving Day by helping themselves to a Frankfurt Yellow Jacket repassed to the tune of 25-7. Now, some 5,000 fans wended, no idea what that means, their way to the ballpark, hoping to be thankful for a Hornet victory, but a smooth-clicking Wisconsin attack spilled the beans so far as the gridiron dreams of the Pennsylvanians were concerned. Wintry breezes swept the field, but Old Soul shone brightly until the closing minutes, and the spectators were treated to enough thrills to keep themselves warm. What a team! That was the sole comment of Bob Haynes, manager of the Jackets, as he got busy with Packer representative in the clubhouse after the combat. If you don't win the championship again, I'll miss my guess, because I have never seen an outfit which went about touchdown making in such a business-like way. In such a business-like way, my bad. All celebrate win. Just about this time, Bull Bayman, coach of the Yellow Jackets, came into the business office and called up Stapleton to find out how the Islanders came out with the Giants when the flash came over the wire that Friedman, Cagle, and company had taken a 7-6 licking. Friedman, Cagle, and company with the Giants, meaning they lost 7-6. The Hornet executives celebrated nearly as much as the handful of Bayites who were present. One thing is certain, these Giants are about as popular as polecats at a lawn party in Frankfurt. So, sorry, buddy. My dog's at my feet. So it just goes to show you, even back then, the people in Philadelphia didn't like the Giants, and the Green Bay didn't like the Giants because they were battling them out for first place. But what happened right after this game? They went to the business office and called up the Stapletons to find out how they came out with the Giants, because there's no ESPN, there's no TV, right? There's none of this. There's no cell phones. Oh, how'd you do? Ain't none of that. They had to go into the office, make a phone call, find out what the score of the game was, because they had no idea. The Packer held the upper hand all the way, and only for a brief spell in the third period did the Hornets threaten. However, this offensive was cut short after one lob pass into Joesting's hands paved the way for the Quakers' lone touchdown. Pharmer kicked the goal, and the natives staged a young celebration as the teams lined up for the next kickoff. However, their joy was short-lived because Quaker time was soon called, and the Packers, with a strong wind at their backs, went to work as they only can at the start of the fourth quarter. It wasn't long before the Hornets were buzzing around in their own backyard, and the once jubilant natives began leaving the ballpark. As I said, one article said there was about 7,000 fans. Another one said there was 8,000. This one says it was about 5,000 fans. Go figure. Miss a thrilling finish. Those that did pull stakes early missed seeing the Packers run wild over the Jackets in the closing minutes of play. About midway in the final frame, Dilweg intercepted a Quaker pass on the Jackets' 35-yard line. Then Herdis McCrary proceeded to plunge through center out into the open and on for a touchdown. He shook off a half-dozen tacklers en route. Red Dunn kicked the goal, and these scores clinched the victory, but that wasn't all. The Jackets received the next kickoff and again started passing deep in. All right, so let's go to the next page. So the Jackets started passing once again, deep in. So we'll go to the page 18 of the November 28, 1930 edition of the Green Bay Press-Gazette. So they started passing deep in once again in their own territory as before. McCrary got a hold of one of these tosses, and he stepped on the 16-yard line before he hit the turf. Then foxy old Red Dunn called for a pass. The Hornets rushed pretty fast, and he sidestepped around a couple of the enemy and heaved a bullet-like peg, which Arnold Herbert snagged on the dead run as he crossed the goal line. Dunn's kick was blocked, but no one cared. The score was 25-7. The Bays didn't waste much time breaking the ice at the start of the game. After some minor skirmishing on both sides, Dunn, who played one of the best games of his Packer career, passed the blood, and Johnny stuck his hand in the face of one would-be tackler and sidestepped another in his long gallop for a touchdown. Red missed the goal. A buck stiff wind. In the second frame, the Packers bucked a stiff wind and came through with another marker when Blood snagged the pass in sensational manner and pranced, as only Johnny can prance, for a second touchdown. It looked as if Dunn's try for the extra point was okay, but the officials ruled otherwise. Speaking of statistics, the Packers made a dozen first downs to Frankfurt's 9. On yards gained from scrimmage, the national champions chalked up 207, while the Jackets negotiated only 109 yards for the whole game. Whew. Packers suffered 109 yards of penalties, though, while Frankfurt got off with only 35. Jackets completed but 3 of their 17 forward passes and had 6 intercepted, while Green Bay clicked on 8 of their 19 without a Bull Beeman's Warriors nabbing a single one of them. So they didn't throw it. Packers didn't throw one interception. Meanwhile, the Frankfurt Yellow Jackets apparently had 6 intercepted passes. Coach Lambeau Lambeau of Lambeau Field, right? Used all of his eligible men, but juggled his players so that Bob Melinda and Jug Earp got a well-deserved rest. Cal Hubbard stopped in as an end and did a good job of it. Once he intercepted a Frankford pass, and it took about 6 of the Quakers to down him. It reminded one of the Portsmouth game when Jug Earp grabbed the kickoff and wobbled down the field. The Green Bay Packers pace setters in Joe Carr's postgraduate football loop came back to New York at noon today from Philadelphia, where they triumphed over the Frankford Yellow Jackets 25-7. The Wisconsin squad hastened to the Lincoln Hotel, where they donned their football togs again and journeyed forth to the DeWitt Clinton Field for a limbering up practice. Another workout is scheduled for Saturday morning in preparation for the contest Sunday with the Stapleton Club on Staten Island. This is the team that whipped the New York Giants Thanksgiving Day 7-6. The Packers squad came out of the Frankfurt encounter in pretty good shape, and with the possible exception of Tom Nash, their end, the entire squad should be fit for the whistle Sunday in Staten Island against the Stapletons. So play-by-play, first period. Farmer momentarily fumbled Michael's kickoff, but returned it 15 yards to the Jackets' 25-yard line. Peterson went through tackle twice to place the ball at midfield. Farmer booted to the Green Bay 10-yard line. Herbert, from a kick formation, ran around left end for 23 yards. 2 line plays failed, so Herbert punted 40 yards to Nydal at Frankfurt's 36-yard line. Joesting went through center for 18 yards. Farmer fumbled, and Slate recovered for the Packers on his 42-yard line. Herbert punted over the Frankfurt goal line. Farmer made a good kick, the ball being down on the Jackets' 28-yard line. Green Bay was penalized 15 yards for holding. A forward pass done to Blood, the latter running 35 yards after he caught the ball, netted Green Bay a touchdown. Dunn failed to kick the goal, and the score was Green Bay 6, Frankfurt nothing. Michael made a short kick to Watkins at the 31-yard line. Watkins returned 5 yards. Frankfurt was penalized 15 yards for holding. Peterson kicked back to midfield. McCrary made 5 yards through center, and Blood added 12 more around right end. In the second period, Dunn passed to Blood, who ran 25 yards for a touchdown. Dunn again failed to kick the goal. Score Green Bay 12, Frankfurt nothing. After Michael kicked, Blood intercepted Nydal's long pass at midfield and dashed to the Jackets' 25-yard line. Frankfurt held for downs 20 yards from its goal line. Farmer reversed its field for a 30-yard gain. Nydal and Joesting tore through tackle for a first down at the Packers' 34-yard line. Frankfurt lost the ball on downs at the 26-yard line. McCrary made 5 yards at guard, and Llewellyn went around right end for another 5. So you can really see where back in the day, I mean, if you were good, which was very difficult, but I mean, if you were good at kicking, man, you'd be very, very valuable. You see, a lot of times they didn't even want to try for field goals. Llewellyn made a poor kick, which went out of bounds on the Packers' 46-yard line. 2 Frankfurt forwards were incomplete, and Farmer kicked over the Packers' goal line. Llewellyn gained 16 yards through tackle. Llewellyn kicked to the Frankfurt's 45-yard line. So this is missing some plays in it. This is not exact once a play-by-play. The Green Bay Press-Gazette usually, when they go over the game, is a little more thorough. So this is missing some plays in it. The Packers were penalized 15 yards. Hubbard intercepted Joesting's pass on the Packers' 30-yard line. Blood skirted left end for 13 yards. Blood went around left end for 14 more. McCrary made 3 yards through tackle, but Frankfurt held on the next 3 plays and took the ball on downs. Farmer booted to Llewellyn at Green Bay's 33-yard line as the half ended with the score Green Bay 12, Frankfurt nothing. Third period. Rodriguez replaced Nydal to start the second half. Farmer kicked off to Dunn, catching the ball and coming back 15 yards to the Packers' 36-yard line. Frankfurt profited by an exchange of kicks. Herbert fumbled, and Wilson recovered at Green Bay's 17-yard line. Farmer went through tackle for 5 yards, and Joesting made its first down at the Packers' 5-yard line. Pharmer passed to Joesting, who caught the ball and ran over the goal line for a touchdown. Pharmer kicked the ball for the extra point. The score was now Green Bay 12, Frankfurt 7. Pharmer kicked off to the Packers' 25-yard line. Green Bay then wheeled off 3 successive first downs, and Herbert added 12 more yards to tackle. O'Donnell argued with the referee and was put off the field, and the Green Bay team penalized half the distance to the goal line. Costas recovered a Green Bay fumble at the visitors' 35-yard line. Frankfurt's aerial attack failed, and Pharmer had to kick, the ball going out of bounds on Green Bay's 6-yard line. Herbert kicked to Pharmer, but the latter fumbled, and Darling recovered at the Packers' 46-yard line. The Jackets gained on an exchange of punts, Green Bay being pushed to its 20-yard line. The quarter ended with the score Green Bay 12, Yellow Jackets 7. Crabtree replaced Rodriguez at the start of the fourth period. Herbert kicked to Frankfurt's 38-yard line. Fitzgibbons took Blood's place in the Green Bay backfield. Fitzgibbons intercepted Crabtree's pass on Frankfurt's 44-yard line. A pass, Herbert to Llewellyn gained 11 yards. Frankfurt batted down 2 Green Bay passes and then took the ball on downs on its own 30-yard line. Pharmer passed to Wilson for a 20-yard advance. On an attempted forward pass, Crabtree slipped as he was about to throw the ball and was tackled for a 15-yard loss. Pharmer kicked out of bounds on Green Bay's 37-yard line. Herbert got off a good kick to Frankfurt's 7-yard line. Dunn caught Pharmer's punt and returned it 5 yards to Frankfurt's 27-yard line. Fitzgibbons tore through tackle for 8 yards, and Herbert made a first down at the Jackets' 17-yard line, but Frankfurt held for downs. Joesting wheeled off 13 yards in 3 plunges. Dilweg intercepted Pharmer's pass at the 33-yard line. McCrary got loose through center and raced over the goal line for a Green Bay touchdown. Dunn kicked the goal, scored Green Bay 19, Frankfurt 7. After Green Bay kicked off the Dilweg and intercepted After Green Bay kicked off, Dilweg again intercepted a pass by Peterson and ran into the Frankfurt 15-yard line. Dunn passed to Herbert, who stepped over the goal line for another Packers touchdown. Dunn's kick was blocked. The score was Green Bay 25, Frankfurt 7. After the next kickoff, Green Bay intercepted another forward pass at the Frankfurt 40-yard line and worked the ball down to the Jackets' 3-yard line as the game ended. Scored 25 for Green Bay, Frankfurt 7. So, I mean, you could say, especially in this game, obviously, the better team won, but the team that made the more errors also is the one that lost. Now, with 6 intercepted passes, I mean, Frankfurt pretty much doomed themselves. But like I said, I mean, without question, Green Bay was certainly a better team. I mean, they were number one, and you can see in the standings how Frankfurt was really far down there. And unfortunately, is that after this season, Frankfurt, the Yellow Jackets would have only be around for one more season. So that's the way it was on this date, November 27th, 1930. The Green Bay Packers played the Frankfurt Yellow Jackets at Frankfurt Stadium in pro football's first 50 years. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next.